And we are getting you those latest pictures of that growing bonhomie between Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Japanese counterpart Fumio Kishida, who is on a two-day visit to India. There you see those pictures of the Japanese Prime Minister now doing chai pe charcha and tasting some golgappas with Prime Minister Modi. This, of course, as we see how Fumio Kishida had also invited Prime Minister Modi to the G7 Leaders Summit in Hiroshima. And there have been wide-ranging talks with Kishida to expand India-Japan strategic partnership for a peaceful, stable and prosperous post-COVID world. The Japanese Prime Minister, who had arrived earlier and is on a two-day official visit to India. In fact, Prime Minister Modi had also said that in the last 1 year, Prime Minister Fumio Kishida and him had met several times, and every time he felt a sense of positivity and commitment to India-Japan bilateral relationship. His visit will also be very beneficial to maintain this momentum. There you see Prime Minister adding that personal touch as he is making the Japanese Prime Minister and giving him a sense of the Indian culture and the Indian foods. There, the Japanese Prime Minister tasting golgappas and doing chai pe charcha as the two leaders interact. Abhishek Kapoor, Senior Executive Editor, who's tracking all the details on the ground, is with us on the phone line. Abhishek, well, and this is just that extra personal touch that Prime Minister Modi always adds, as in this visit of Prime Minister Kishida also, he's with him. This is coming in from the chai pe charcha moments that they are having, and the Japanese Prime Minister also having the very own Indian golgappas. What more can you tell us, as it is indicative of the cultural exchange and also what the two leaders are interacting?
Suresha, so you mentioned about that extra personal touch, and you saw that impact of that extra burst of spices when Prime Minister Kishida tried that pani puri. I don't know whether the pani of the pani puri and the chai go together, but then this is obviously soft power push. We know Prime Minister Modi for bringing in that element of very personal touch and that kind of soft power push diplomacy. The manner in which, for example, he goes and hugs these leaders on global stage, very warm connect, which has sort of become a trademark, which in fact now gets reciprocated by leaders like Emmanuel Macron, for example. And here you see Prime Minister giving Prime Minister Kishida a peep into some Indian snacks, and they seem to be having a very engaging conversation on what this thing is about. So you saw, for example, Prime Minister Shinzo Abe being taken to Ahmedabad and being taken to the Sabarmati Ashram. Similarly, for President Xi Jinping, Prime Minister Modi himself traveled to Xi'an and to those ancient places for which Xi'an is known. Then we had President Xi Jinping coming to Chennai, to Mamallapuram, and in this case, Prime Minister Kishida and Prime Minister Modi having some time together at the Buddha Jayanti Park after having paid respects at the Bodhisattva tree. Now, you see, this is these optics essentially underscore the kind of comfort, the kind of chemistry, the kind of personal connect that is there between the leaderships of the two nations. This is something which was not done earlier, and it was not done perhaps because it was not understood. The value of this kind of soft power push was not understood. Prime Minister Modi understands that. So be it his oath-taking ceremony in 2014 when he invited the SAARC nations, or his oath-taking ceremony in 2019 when he invited the ASEAN nations. And then, as I mentioned, whenever you have these dignitaries coming, just last week he was at the Narendra Modi Stadium in Ahmedabad giving a lap of honor to Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese. And so now, because Prime Minister Kishida is on a short working visit, it's not a full state visit. There was no ceremonial welcome, for example. So Prime Minister is still finding time, taking him out and showing him around the Buddha Jayanti Park. Essentially, it's about showcasing India's heritage, soft power. In this case, the Buddha Connect that is there between the two nations. All the important Buddhist sites being in India, and Buddhism essentially a majority religion in Japan, and many of those Asian, East Asian and Southeast Asian countries. So I think these pictures for optics essentially underscore the kind of comfort that's there between the two nations and hence the two leaders, or the two leaders and hence the two nations, and India's soft power diplomacy push.
Oh, yes, absolutely, Abhishek. And, like you said, that don't know whether the tastes of the two go. But Prime Minister Kishida, they're certainly getting a taste of the Indian Golgappas and really an extension to the strong bilateral relations between the two nations. Also, the building of that strong strategic partnership for a peaceful, stable and prosperous post-COVID world, and really how the Prime Minister holds this diplomatic strategy when he is usually interacting with his foreign counterparts. Here again, as Prime Minister said, that he will and has been thankful for the invite that has been extended to him for the G7 Leaders Summit in Hiroshima. And these are memories, certainly, Abhishek, that Japanese Prime Minister Kishida would take back home.
Well, naturally, as I said, it's a short working trip. Remember, Prime Minister Kishida has arrived in the morning only, and he headed straight to Rajghat, from there straight to Hyderabad House, from there straight to Sapru for the Sapru lecture at the Sushma Swaraj Bhavan, and then from there straight to this Buddha Jayanti Park rendezvous with Prime Minister Modi again. And then in the evening he's at a business event, and then I believe with the embassy of Japan. And then in the morning, 8 o'clock, I believe, or 10 o'clock, he flies back to Japan. And in the short period of time for the two leaders to be connecting one-on-one, to be engaging on the culture side and trying to appreciate, the heritage connect that's there between the two nations. These paying floral tributes to the Bodhisattva tree is a Buddha connect that exists between India and Japan. Remember, Prime Minister Modi has been talking about the Buddhism circuit, which has been strengthened, for example, by setting up international airports, international airport at Kushinagar, which was inaugurated last year, and upgrading the Varanasi airport to an international airport, having fantastic highways in the region connecting all these places, Lumbini, Sarnath, Kushinagar, Lumbini on the Nepal side, of course. And so I think soft power push essentially is part of the larger diplomacy. Very personal, with a lot of personal touch that Prime Minister brings to diplomacy. Pictures reflecting that.
All right, Abhishek, we'll continue to get our viewers the very latest on Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida's visit to India. But for the moment, we have to slip into a short commercial break. And Prime Minister Modi thanking Fumio Kishida